So, ladies and gentlemen, next at the Procurement Leaders Summit 2021, it is time for our final panel discussion. Well, the theme is Intelligent Procurement Workflows, Harmonizing Technology and Data to Improve Processes, Enhance Customer Experience, and Accelerate Value. Well, for this, we're joined by our moderator, Mr. Nilesh Bubna, the Associate Director Advisory, KPMG India. Well, a vast experience of over 25 years in procurement across spend areas, commodities, ingredients, packaging, and external manufacturing. Somebody who's responsible for the strategic sourcing, global sourcing, formulate long-term buying strategies for the business, generating top-line growth, and contributing to bottom line of the business. Also joining our moderator would be our panelists. First up, Mr. Amol Kulkarni, VP Contracts and Procurement, Think Gas Distribution Private Limited, an accomplished professional with a double-decade experience in the field of procurement, contracting, material management, spend management leadership, negotiating skills, sourcing, team building, with the attitude to achieve the desired goal. Also joining would be Ms. Malavika Chatterjee, Head Vendor Development and Functional Excellence, Tata Steel Limited. Malavika has been working in Tata Steel for the past 18 years with the experience of having handled multiple functions and roles like the corporate strategy and planning, outbound, supply chain, and network analyst. Also joining us would be Mr. Rakesh Nandan Sharma, Global Lead Technology Procurement, BlackRock. Well, a global supply chain and procurement leader with senior leadership roles in indirect sourcing, supplier development, vendor management, and setting up offshore shared services operations. Joining us also would be Mr. Karthik S., Head Procurement, Tagros Chemicals India Private Limited. With 15 plus years of professional exposure to sourcing, strategy formulation, and operational excellence, Karthik is somebody who has successfully leveraged cross-functional knowledge and collaborated across functions. Also joining would be Mr. Karan Bhatia, VP Head Procurement and Facilities, Bharti AXA Life Insurance Company Limited. As a skilled and successful purchasing professional with more than 16 years of experience, Karan possesses the knowledge and experience that allows him to make an immediate and a positive impact in a company. Well, with this, we've got a tremendous panel on the stage and screen, and I'm going to be passing on the live baton now to Mr. Nilesh Bubna. Over to you.
Good evening. Happy to see you all, meet you. I would have loved if it was offline event, but unfortunately we are living in online world. So great to connect with you all. Like Bhavna mentioned that we have ocean of experiences, tremendous experiences with the panelists. They have experiences in manufacturing as well as service industry. So I'm very, very excited about moderating this session. And what we see is that we are surrounded by technology all around. So whether it is Google Maps, which everybody have used it, are using it on a daily basis, which is very, very smart. It smartly tells you that which route is convenient for you, which is the shortest route for you, which will take shortest time for you. Or if it is shopping website like Amazon or Flipkart or anybody who suggest you basis your interest, it suggests you that what should you buy. It recommends you that what should you buy. Humanoids are there. They have started delivering live news on TV, food ordering. We have seen grocery shopping during pandemic. So we are all surrounded by technology all across. When we look at procurement, in last 10 to 15 years, I've seen a lot of change happened in technology front on procurement. Where it started with e-sourcing, and my first experience I would like to share with all of you that when e-sourcing was deployed, the old school of thoughts people told me that कि ये तो नहीं चलने वाला है. Do you think that my negotiation strategy was not that effective? So you are introducing this technology, or what do you think about it? So e-commerce, e-sourcing चलने वाला नहीं है. Okay, so we did reverse auction. We got good amount of savings, double-digit saving. Then people started saying that, boss, ये price में तो आपको delivery मिलने वाला नहीं है. You got the price, but you won't get delivery. But slowly people started adopting the technology. E-sourcing is now, there are many vendors who are providing this platform to all of us. We have access to that. ERP system has evolved a lot in procurement, and it is throwing up a lot of analysis, a lot of reports to us. There are MIS systems which are available, which sits on your ERP system, throws up outputs, throws up the MIS reports to you, does a predictive analysis. So it does a lot of activities. E-aggregators have cropped up a lot. So they are helping you to source your non-value added items. They aggregate at a level where they can negotiate with vendors directly and get you a volume discount where you individually were not able to get it. So technological interventions have happened in procurement also. If we look at the survey, so there was a survey of CPOs which has happened by an organization, 33% of CPO. So this survey was global survey across big organizations as well as small organizations. 33% of the CPOs have said that they would like to invest in digital procurement, digitization of procurement, so that they are able to get benefits, they are able to deliver their objectives to the organization. It's quite big because people believe that digitization will be the thing of future. Okay, 70%, 78% of them has said that they would like to drive cost optimization through digitization. 54% of them has said that they would like to drive supply risk. They would like to manage supply risk through digitization. Supply risk is a big thing in pandemic. People have realized the benefits of supply risk. So this is a big number. A lot of CPOs are going towards digitization. So I would like to ask certain questions to my panelists, and I would like them to share their experiences with you. So Karan, this question for you. E-sourcing is there for about 10-15 years in procurement. Okay, many big organizations are using this tool. There are many platforms available in the market. Even small and medium enterprises can go and buy those applications. Now, there are still many organizations who are not using it. So I have two sets of questions for you. One, since you have extensively used e-sourcing platform, what do you see as benefit which comes out from e-sourcing? That's one. Second is that what is stopping people not to use, a small enterprise not to use e-platform? So what can be differently done so that people start using those e-platforms?
Thank you, Nilesh, for asking this question. It's an honor to be a part of such a learned panel. I totally agree with you. I'm using e-sourcing, I believe, from last 13-14 years now, and have used different type of tools in last 13 to 14 years. To question number one, I believe procurement, it's a control function where you need to have very robust processes in place. And tools like e-sourcing, they genuinely help you in having those controls inbuilt. For example, if earlier we used to send or ask for quotations through email five service providers are sending you quotations and all have different terms and conditions or contours of the deal. Someone is asking for 90 days of payment terms, someone else is asking for 30 days. The decision making was very difficult. Right now, you are ensuring, first of all, that all service providers are quoting exactly with the same terms and conditions. Second, it eliminates the biasness from a buyer side for suppliers, right? So it's a very transparent process. It's auditable process. The kind of value which you get if you have the right policies and procedures, savings and other things are the byproducts. Right, and e-sourcing genuinely helps you in establishing that robust process. As far as why other organizations are not doing it, first of all, they should definitely do that. There are multiple studies. It's proven that the benefits of e-sourcing are unlimited. ROI which you invest for e-sourcing tools, you can easily recover them within a span of a couple of months. So it's that easy. Despite that, if these organizations are not doing it, I believe this is probably, I'll say, lack of knowledge or innovation in those organizations. And we as procurement heads, it's our responsibility to influence the management in the right path, that this is kind of required to establish those processes, to have that transparency, to have those audit trails, which is a must-have for a procurement function.
So thanks, Karan, for sharing your views. But do you think that is it cost, or let's say the technology, the user UI of the technology, which is stopping them to use this tool?
So most of the e-sourcing tools, if you see, are you get them as software as service. So UI, UX, and these are established organizations. They keep on constantly working on that. I don't think so that should be kind of deterrent to evaluate e-sourcing tools. As far as cost is also concerned, I believe in case you are procuring material worth crores and you will get the ROI within a couple of months, I see no harm in investing in e-sourcing tool. It's kind of lack of innovation in organizations, especially SMEs, I believe, are still going towards that path. But I believe many large organizations have done it. Most of the Fortune 500 companies are using e-sourcing. These are not very expensive tools and must be evaluated for any organization.
Yeah, you rightly said, probably it's a myth within the small organizations, and that's why they are not adopting it. It's pretty cost effective. I can tell you, as a consultant, I have been talking to many organizations, and then yes, it's all about myth, nothing beyond that. It's accessible to everybody, and then usability is also pretty good. Any panelists want to share their experiences also before we move on to the next question?
Sure. I think it's more, as rightly said, it is good to have an e-sourcing platform, but I believe the education and the little bit of push from our sourcing folks inside the organization is going to change the world. I think so even if you look at big organizations, when they buy a solution, let's say Coupa, Ariba, Oracle, they only use few parts of it, few modules of it. They don't really exploit the overall solution that they have. If you look at Ariba sales network, right? Even if you look at Coupa's network, they don't use it. Even if you look at RFP, RFIs, or RFQs that we conduct, it is more like you go and exchange documents. You don't really use a lot of available features into it. And company has really invested, as Karan rightly said, they have invested millions of dollars into the platform to use it effectively. I think, and it is not about a company has money, whether it is a small company or a big company. It is more like a mindset where people don't want to move from our traditional way to a new way, wherein they think it is not going to be very individual driven. It's more like technology driven. They still wants to get into it. Second, I also feel from a technology standpoint is a lot of these platforms are not equipped to conduct all the categories effectively. So it is good to do a lot of homogeneous products or services, or at a high level, all the indirect or some bit of direct, buying. But if you look at healthcare as an industry, if you look at steel as an industry, if you look at these data buying in specific for consulting or maybe data analytics, is still needs a lot of change in the current available offerings.
I'll just add to what Rakesh said. There is also a myth or perception on what e-sourcing is. We consider e-sourcing limited to reverse auctions or forwards auctions or Dutch auctions. It's not limited to that. These are very few features of e-sourcing. We obviously need quotations, right, for everything we do. This is what procurement professionals do. They obtain quotations, they negotiate, they do a comparative bidding, and basis that, after obtaining all the approvals, they conclude the deals. What we are doing right now is we are either calling service providers on their phone, send me the quotation for XYZ, or we are sending them emails. As I earlier said, the contours of the deals which you will get while calling or through this procedure would be very different, because everyone would be quoting on different terms and conditions. Why don't you also obtain all the quotations through e-sourcing tools? You are ensuring that everyone is quoting exactly on the same terms and conditions. You have options like sealed bid within e-sourcing tools, where buyers can't even see who has quoted what until and unless the RFQ time is not over. So from that perspective, these are fabulous tools, must get evaluated. And that perception of e-sourcing is limited only to reverse auction or forward auctions or Dutch auctions should be eliminated.
Yeah, thanks, Karan and Rakesh for sharing your thoughts. Yes, I agree that it's about myth, it's about perception of people. I think we need to change as procurement leaders. We need to change those mindsets within these organizations. But I think happy to hear you. My next question is to Malvika. See, Malvika, we use chatbots in our day-to-day life now, whether it is about banking sector or it is about travel. You see chatbots over WhatsApp also. So many basic questions are being answered through chatbots. So what you do is that any basic query is being solved by the bots itself, rather than deploying somebody full time. So, and these are available 24 hours. So it's smart, intelligent to answer all the basic queries. I've seen a few organizations who have started using chatbots, resolving queries of vendors like payment. So when payment is getting due, the GRNs, whether GRN is being made or not, what's the GRN number, POs. These are few examples which I have seen with a few of my clients. And I believe that there is a lot to do through chatbots. That's what I believe. But do you want to share your perspective that how chatbots can solve procurement problems so that procurement team gets time to focus on strategic things rather than solving basic problems like payment hua kya, GRN bana kya, and all those basic queries?
Yeah, thanks for that very interesting question, Nilesh. And personally, this bot has been a very dear project, Tata Steel framework. As you are aware, or I want to share with this house, that Tata Steel has always believed or an early adopter of technology in many areas. So for the interest of the house, let me just give you a small anecdote on the story of the chatbot, as we understand it. Early in the 1950s, there is one Mr. Alan Turing, who was using a computer program in MIT, and he developed something which was very similar to a chatbot, And this bot was basically what it was trying to do is it was trying to replicate the way people speak, and it was more like a fun game that was created. Subsequently, Eliza was born in the 1966, and then we all know the journey where we had the iOS Siri, which came, and the Siri was very popular, especially in the iPhone devices. And in 2014, we had Alexa. So let's first understand, I'll just give an analogy. What did Alexa do for us? We can ask simple questions. The backend is absolutely very powerful. It's a self-learning also because there's a lot of AI, because this bot needs to learn as we go along, and it answers day-to-day questions. So from the procurement perspective, let me answer this, your question in three parts. See, there are three key stakeholders that this bot can be useful for, and I will share the examples where we have already used it in Tata Steel. The first stakeholder is obviously your customers, because we in procurement have internal customers, right? We are all a cost center in our companies, and we are servicing the need of our production managers or our marketing teams, etc., ensuring that the right material is available to them. So as far as the customers are concerned, and then the second stakeholder is the buyer himself. That means the procurement manager himself. And the third stakeholder is the vendor, which is the supplier, right? Now let's see how the buyer has a lot of, like you rightly mentioned, a lot of mundane things that he needs to do. He needs to come in the morning and see how many RFQs are pending, how many orders are pending, who are his most strategic or top suppliers, who he needs to have a meeting today. So there are some mundane questions. So the first application of the bot can be to this buyer. If he comes in the morning, the first thing, and he's able to kind of simply chat, let's say with his device, which could be a handheld device, his mobile, and he asks this question and the bot kind of starts replying. So all the work that he does in the ERP or using an Excel file, his life can get simplified. That is the use case number one. Use case number two is, of course, like you rightly mentioned, for vendor partners. If you see, for example, in Tata Steel, we have almost more than 5,000 vendors in Tata Steel alone. And with the integration of BSL, all of you must be aware, into the TSL, this number has gone to 10,000, and suppliers have continuous queries. So what we did is we launched a bot which was called Richa. It was a cloud-based, and a startup helped us to develop this bot. There are a lot of basic questions, and it's a guided kind of a question where you can go and choose the option. Is it a payment-related query? Is it a product-related query? Is it a delivery-related query? Would you like to know some facts about Tata Steel? So you have various drop-downs. And then after that, you can start also typing in. And this bot started learning by itself. That was the phase one of the bot that we had launched. And I must tell you that the few very quick advantages that it gave us, of course, we have a call center for taking care of vendors. This call center, if it had 20 people, this bot can actually handle the work of 50% of them. So it is very economical, point number one. Point number two, it is 24/7. You don't have to worry about shifts. You don't have to worry that even after 7 p.m., anybody can go to the bot. If the bot is not able to answer a question, you can also program so that it's auto-escalated to a manual system of a response, and somebody can come back to the vendor. So we have seen that it has resulted in a huge increase in the net promoter score, or you can call the vendor satisfaction for vendors. So this is a use case which we have really seen working pretty well, and we are now trying to develop this further and trying to see if more complicated queries also can be addressed, because it's a self-learning bot. And the last stakeholder, like I said, is our customers. So even the customers who are kind of wanting to follow up, find out the status that where this particular consignment is, where is it stuck, how much delay, or will it come on time? So these are some very simple questions which he can ask the bot. It could be a type bot, or it could also be a verbal, where it could read some languages, or it has an intelligent language processing. And that's the use case. Although I have not seen very widely in the procurement function. However, it's very widely there in the airline industry, it's very much there in a lot of service industry. But I think procurement, this is a bright spot for us. We can encash those opportunities and really take this bot to a lot of advantage for procurement functions.
Yep, Malvika. So thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts. Yes, chatbots are definitely going to be a thing of future, and it is going to be beneficial. So like you said that you have internal stakeholders, your customers, who are interested that when consignments are coming, whether POs are being raised or not. So all those basic queries, and then you have external customers, and then vendors who have queries like, yeah, payment has been done or not. Very, very basic questions, and satisfying those stakeholders is important internally as well as externally, because that will define your costs. That is going to get into your cost. So if they are satisfied, now obviously your life is easy. So like you said that, yes, it is cost effective. It is not about putting down 20 people answering the calls. It's about like probably we can do away with 15 people, and then these are more effective. They can be accessible 24/7. So Amol, do you want to share any thoughts around it?
Yeah, definitely, Nilesh. In fact, a very good information by Malavika. And what I foresee is one more area wherein we can use this chatbots as a very important tool for exploring new vendors, for vendor registrations we can use effectively, and also for all the softwares which we are using wherein there is e-procurement softwares, wherein we need to give some support to kind of thing to those suppliers or vendors who are directly bidding on these softwares. So it is kind of educating things, solving their queries. In that case also, this chatbots can be a very good help, and that will again encourage this medium or small scale industries wherein they are currently not using any e-procurement tools. So this will be, once this chatbot is available, then this will automatically give encouragement to these industries also to shift from current systems which are majorly manual systems. They will be then it will be encouraged. They will be encouraged to move to this e-procurement systems.
Thanks, Amol. My next question is about the adaptability of mobile. So Karthik, this is to you, and if you can throw some light on that. Everything is going mobile. So whether you are buying your essentials, you are buying your premium products. So even like your white goods are being bought over mobile. Payment to a vendor, a vegetable vendor also, you can now do it through mobile. So everything is on your handheld device. How do you see a shift happening within procurement from a basic computing to a mobile-based procurement?
So Nilesh, thanks for the question. And so right, mobile has become kind of synonymous with our daily lives, so close to our heart today. I mean, everything you execute on your mobile. Gone on those days where you even visited a bank, so you don't even need a computer. You just need a mobile, and that's enough for you to do almost everything in terms of banking today. And I mean, it's catching up even in the procurement space. I think where do you start? That's the question. And yeah, there could be very simple things that you could start with. So just kind of once your order is through in the SAP system, can we have a kind of a tinkle go, an SMS go to a registered mobile number that the PO is released? Can we have a tinkle go saying that the GR is done, the goods are received? There could be a SMS going in that a payment is received. All these put together, messaging like this to the partner community vendors, it helps a lot in terms of keeping all of them updated in terms of what's happening inside the firm in terms of their transaction. So I think these are some things which are very simple, which one does even without kind of going into or accessing something like apps. But then with now development of apps taking place and the technology improving, I mean, we started off somewhere releasing orders on mobile. So there is a workflow, and in the workflow you would have on the mobile an email coming in. Just click the email and then the order is released. So this is one method. Even if you could have especially an app to kind of do this for you, and the workflow is configured. So one of the things that typically one comes across as an issue in doing it is how much information can you draw into the mobile. So yes, I mean, one needs to keep it light, but having kept it light, I think there is a lot that can be done. Today, if I would say that there are a number of cloud procurement platforms available which have added on mobile app functions, both for the vendor as well as for the internal stakeholders in a firm. So I mean, today there are apps which allow vendors to actually go on the app and quote. Similarly, one could launch an event through an app. So I think these are things which are evolving, getting into place, and rightly so. I think this is the way things are going, and this is the future. Mostly, a lot is going to happen on mobile, which is transactional, majorly transactional in nature. A lot of it is going there. I think this will finally evolve into things like say catalog procurements happening on the mobile app based. So I think there is a lot to go further.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik, for sharing your thoughts. Yes, there is a lot to go about it. I think this is the way procurement has to shift focus on. One point which I take away from your discussion is that, and very rightly, that you have limited space available within your handheld device. It's unlike your laptop or a desktop where you can have unlimited space. Very, very important that we have to keep everything light so that it is the usage is high of mobile. But that eases out your life. Everything is available on WhatsApp or SMSs or an app. It eases your life, your vendor's life, your customer's life. So that's the way to go for. My another question is on another technology, which is SaaS, which is software as a service, or a cloud-based application, which is available and you pay as per use. Now, technology, like Karan mentioned, that technology has been adopted by all the big organizations now. But when I come to SMEs, small and medium sector, medium enterprises, they always are cost conscious. They are probably, I would say, miser in spending money on technology. So Amol, this question is to you. Do you think that SaaS-based application or cloud-based application, which are available pay as per use, will drive people to go for technological transformation within procurement? Do you think that it will reduce cost of procurement?
So thanks, Nilesh, for this question. Let me answer your question in three parts. First, let us start with the start. The theme of the session is intelligent procurement workflows, harmonizing technology and data to improve process, enhance customer experience, and accelerate values. So exactly the theme of this session is being endorsed by this software as service solution. So this is one part that how software as solution is going to have impact. And what are the key features? First of all, if we see, getting back to the first question again, why these SMEs are still having the hindrance in using such kind of technologies. First thing is, as you rightly said, that these companies are miser, they don't want to spend much. And the very good feature of this SaaS technology is you pay per solution, or in some cases, you pay per use, pay per transaction also. So these things are available with SaaS, and having this, it is a very good encouragement wherein the companies who want to use, maybe they want to use as a conditional use for 90% of their spend, A-class spends, they want to use this software. It is when they start with that, and once they derive the value out of it, then they can use it for all entire spend, this e-procurement kind of SaaS solutions. So second thing is, for any solution like which is we have to procure separately and then customize it and then use it. So the time requirement and the customization requirements which are required for the solutions like SAP is huge. But if you use this SaaS, it is plug and play kind of solutions which are readily available. You don't have to customize it much. It is already in use. And most effective thing, or most the boon available in this case, is you can try this solution before even purchasing. So that's the best advantage. So this is my second point. Third thing is, when we are talking about software as a solution, all the features which were already there into the e-procurement kind of typical systems, all such features are already inbuilt in many of the software solutions which are available currently in the market. Again, in the solution part, if we have to derive into what are the kinds of solution, it broadly into three parts. First is smart sourcing. When we see say smart sourcing, is that all the RFX things are there, RFI, RFQs, RFPs, all three different ways are available in multiple solutions. They give multiple ways to do this RFX things, plus reverse auctions, which is already a norm now. It is not a new thing. When I started my career 20 years ago, reverse auction was something very new. But I started with this technology very early in my career. Just since last 15 years, I have been using reverse auctioning and this e-procurement platforms. There have been gradually a lot of changes into that, and now it is getting better and better. So now, what smart sourcing, there are also the bidding algorithms which are already there into the smart solutions. So once you have this bidding algorithms, you don't have to customize many things. You have to select one algorithm, and then you have to build your tender or your requirement around it. It becomes very easy. So that is one part of smart sourcing. Second is supplier management. If for the companies who are typically going for tendering, there are typically two kinds of tendering, wherein they go, some cases they go for limited tendering, some cases they go for open tendering. So for both these things, managing supplier categories in different ways becomes very difficult. So this SaaS solutions are giving very good category-wise solutions for supplier management, which includes onboarding, structured communications with them, and it is very easily retrievable information about the suppliers, which is available for the supplier management. Taking it to the further next step, the third part of SaaS, which is very interesting, now currently available with many solutions, is intelligent spend analysis, which gives you category wise, you will have to categorize your spend when you do the tender process or do the bidding process. And based on that, the easy spend analysis is also available as part of SaaS to you. It is vendor performance analysis also is available to you, and customizable reporting also is available as part of integrated solution which is available with SaaS. So with all these three, SaaS is definitely the technology of the future, and which is going to be used not only by the big organizations but also by SMEs, and it will be used by everybody in the future, because it is the future Amazon kind of thing. Why Amazon is successful now? When it comes to your mobile application, it has become successful. So similarly, even SAP now has come, is giving some software as solution kind of thing through Fiori apps. So through Fury apps, you are able to release your orders from your mobile. So you are able to release your purchase requisitions through your mobiles. So even in SAP, these things have come. So considering this, what I feel is definitely there is a lot of scope by which we can improve the processes, we can enhance the customer experience, accelerate the value, and in turn reduce the cost for the company. Thanks, Nilesh.
Thanks, Amol, for sharing your thoughts. I think you rightly mentioned that it's about an application is available to you, readily available to you. It is at your disposal. You don't have to shell out large money for it. You can pay as per use. So it's a piecemeal payment. And you talked about smart sourcing. So you can do smart sourcing through these applications. And definitely, I think people who don't want to spend large amount of money on technology, SaaS is definitely a solution to them. Karan, I would like to come to you because I see that a financial sector also use a lot of applications because it's application driven. You need to connect with your customers regularly. So I see a lot of financial companies using SaaS-based application. Do you want to share any experiences from your stint in Bharti AXA?
Absolutely. So the two parts of first of all, cloud computing, right? I'll look at this as a bigger horizon of cloud computing, where number one, you can even the on-prem apps which you currently have, you can outsource them to organizations like AWS or Microsoft Azure, and instead of running your own data centers, having a very big IT team to manage those data centers, you can host all of your applications on Amazon Cloud or Microsoft Azure Cloud. And the benefits are unlimited, right? Again, for example, you don't need to think of uptime. You don't need to think of if the usage of the application is going high. You can have things like bandwidth on demand or cloud on demand, where you can increase the computing within a span of few clicks. And for example, in insurance business, January, February, and March, JFM, it's about to start. These are the peak months, right? We do a lot of business in these 3 months. And during these 3 months, we need more and more computing, right? In case I have my own data center, or if I've outsourced my data center to someone, then I would build the computing looking at the peak months, which I will get only in JFM. Whereas when it comes to cloud computing, instead of doing it throughout the year, I can just take more computing during those peak months, right? So that is about cloud computing. The second question, or the second part, is software as service. What is the difference between software as service or on-prem solutions? And on-prem solutions, these are CapEx licenses which you are procuring and you are hosting them in your own data center. Whereas in SaaS, the organization would have the service provider, or the OEM would have his own data center. He is hosting the application over there, and he is giving you a license or a URL to use that application from your internet browser. Again, you don't need to think of computing. We talked about why smaller organizations are not going towards SaaS. I have a different point of view on this. I believe they are going ahead with this because for on-prem, you need a bigger one-time cost. Whereas for SaaS solutions, you need to shell out the cost on an annual basis instead of investing all the cost initially. So for SMEs, it makes huge sense to go ahead with these SaaS-based applications. And insurance companies and banks and BFSI, a lot of applications are used as software as service. We procure many applications as software as service. And as I said, there are many benefits. We don't think of uptime. We don't need a massive IT team to manage the compute, the uptime part. Also, the change request, as my friend Amol rightly said, right? You don't need to think more of change request because the service provider will keep on doing these updates by your own. You don't need to think of upgrading the app or having those downtimes during those years that there is a new release, there is a version change, therefore we need a downtime for 2 to 3 days. So those things are not required for software as service, and that's the beauty of cloud computing as well as SaaS model, which we discussed about. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Karan, for sharing your thoughts. You brought up a very valid point that you can upscale or downscale as you want. Even for large organization, it is beneficial to move to a SaaS-based application because you are not then focusing on upgradations, downtime, customization, adding new features. In SaaS applications, it is already available, so you just use it. So the vendors are very prompt in upgrading their softwares to be in the business. So a very valid point. Now there is another technological intervention which
I just wanted to add a point on this SaaS, just a small point, if it's okay with you.
A very quick one, 2 minutes probably. Malvika.
Just, one emerging model which is coming to enable these SMEs to use SaaS is what I wanted to point out, because we are all talking about adaptation being an issue with SME, and like Karan was mentioning, ideally they should. So there are these shared services models which are now coming up where you have these companies who are actually owning these SaaS products and leasing it out to very small companies, the MSMEs, maybe 3 people organization, and are saying you can sign into my website or my company and you can use this solution just on a small, very, very small rental. So the cost of the entire SaaS itself is getting divided, which will, I think, help the industry to come up to speed very soon. So thanks.
Thanks, Malvika, for your thoughts. So the next one is on the AI, and Rakesh, this is question for you. Within procurement, we generate tons of data, tons of documents. Some has to be physically maintained, so like legal contracts. Now, managing those many data points or managing those many documents, it's definitely a very, very difficult task for a procurement function. Do you see AI coming to help to manage this kind of documentation?
Sure. Thank you, Nilesh. I think I will start with machine learning, AI, and artificial intelligence. Last year, when I visited my office in New York, I was surprised to see there was no physical security guards. There were robots who were ensuring that I'm the right person to take access inside. So I really see the technology is playing a pivotal role, and it is going to grow with time. When it comes to procurement or any area wherein we are serving to people, AI is coming up very, very handy. As someone said previously that if you go to an e-commerce site, they will populate based on your previous buying the options that you can buy. Even if you go to ATM, right, they will give you options to withdraw the money or do the same transaction that you have done last time. So these all are AIs which is playing a part. Specifically in procurement space, I think data is a key. And that's one of the areas wherein we really struggle. Being a global company, acquired so many companies during the process, and it's like a lot of data platforms that we have throughout the life. Integration, some of the technology platforms have been integrated, some of them are still in progress, some of them still manage in a traditional way, some of them we cannot integrate because of our regulations or laws of that particular country, so that becomes a lot of challenge. So lastly, it comes to India and do it manually sometimes. But what we have learned is, as Karan said and Amol said, there are a lot of SaaS solutions available wherein if you can get your data fixed, the pictorial way of analyzing of available data set becomes very, very handy. And specifically, if you look at procurement, 20 years back, people were working based on their gut, based on their, experience from their past transactions or negotiations. Nowadays, it is all data. You compare your data just by clicking a couple of buttons. You see how your contracts were, in the previous year, how the run rate was, how it is lined up with your demand, how it is moving or it is not moving, and stuff like that. It is very, very handy. When it comes to data, I think AI is playing a lot of part. When it comes to, they can confirm you within a minute whether all the data has been transitioned this month in the pool of data successfully. If there is a error, so it's like when you process your data, they can check, in few minutes and just tell you whether this data has all the inputs that is required or not. And specifically, I personally like the predictive analysis that AI can do within a jiffy of seconds. Is like, it will tell you what to talk, what to do, what is it that you need to talk when you go into negotiations, and specifically, areas that you can focus, rather than talking about everything in that. Second, procurement has also evolved when it comes to technology. When we go to our vendors today, we also want to understand what kind of platform that they use. Is it easy to integrate? Is it easy to transfer data? Is it okay for them to use our platform to do it? Specifically SaaS platforms, right? When you onboard them, it takes 6 months in our environment, because this risk due diligence process is so long, so lengthy, that they need to complete a lot of things. So in those situations, even when we look at our procurement data, right, how the team has performed, the predictive analysis comes very, very handy. What kind of request, what category, what area, what region is taking longer time? What who is the one who's churning the data very fast, and stuff like that. Specifically on the demand side, if you look at, specifically on various commodities wherein we can compare it easily, it's like they can give you predictive analysis, what we have bought, how we have used, how it is going to be in next near future, unless we are talking about telecom or healthcare or data. It is very, very handy. I really like ClickView, as a platform. It is very handy. You can just pick up stuff, put it in your, PPT, and just go for your presentations. It's that handy. And as Karan said, it is very, very competitive when it comes to pricing. It's easy because they are not sharing any data. And there are a lot of platforms available specifically into the SaaS model, wherein you can have their platform on your cloud. So you are not even sharing data on their cloud. What it means is you have the data, you have the view, you can click and use it as and when you want from that perspective. Other than this, I see a lot of opportunity in the overall procurement process as a function. So every step has a lot of, unproductive, or I would say not so productive steps that a sourcing lead needs to do. As an example, uploading the contract once it is signed. Maybe initiating the contract signature once it is agreed. Maybe keeping a editable format of the contract that we are signing. Maybe sharing our inputs on the code or maybe the data. So I think a lot of things that these technology can do in a very, very short span of time, and very effectively with no room for error. So I think this is the key. I specifically also believe there is a lot to go in that area. When it comes to companies like A.T. Kearney or maybe KPMG for that matter, or EY, they are doing a lot of, and they are developing a lot of tools inside their companies as an in-house platform to support a lot of this data transition from one platform to another, or maybe doing a reporting view for corporates like us. So with that, thank you, Nilesh.
Thanks, Rakesh. Very, very interesting point which you highlighted. Sorry. You talked about predictive analysis, and I would like to quote one example of one of my client in savory snacks. And that, let's say, for example, potato chips. There are many flavors in potato chips. Okay. Now it's just a seasoning which you sprinkle over the chips after you bake or fry it. Now AI has helped this procurement friend of mine to predict that which flavor is going to be consumed more. Now he's able to buy those seasoning and keep it in the stock so that they are not stocked out. Because when you go to the shop, you are not thought about the flavor of the chips. Your kid will go and then just point out to one packet and say that, boss, आज मुझे tomato चाहिए, आज मुझे onion flavor चाहिए. Now it becomes very difficult to predict that which flavor is going to work upon or which flavor is in demand. So when you look at when you consolidate all your micro data points into a macro analysis, AI is able to help this friend of mine to predict that which seasoning or which flavor is going on. So I think that was very, very interesting to hear that. Thanks, Rakesh, for sharing your thoughts. Last, anyone want to share any thoughts on AI before we close? Okay, so thanks a lot, everyone, all my panelists, Amol, Malvika, Karthik, Karan, Rakesh, for sharing your thoughts, sharing your experiences. You all have rich experiences in your industry, in your segment. Thanks a lot for that. What we have seen is that there are many platforms available, many tools available for effectively procuring your items. What we see is that there has been a lot of development, a lot of evolution which has happened in procurement technology. We started with e-sourcing, which was mainly driven through e-auctions, reverse auctions, but then we moved to a wider range, which is e-sourcing, like Karan was mentioning about e-RFXs. So you float RFQs, RFPs, RFIs through these platforms, do many types of auctioning. It is not only about reverse auction, it is about Dutch auction also. So you define your strategy and then you can execute that through that platform. But we started from that. We have now started using chatbots in many organizations. Now chatbot is something which can be used by many people. They can do away with non-value added activities, focus on more strategic activities. So procurement can become more strategic than a tactical function. So that's the theme which is coming out. Usability of mobile. So that's another thing which is coming up. Lot of data, a lot of computing is happening on computers, on desktops, on laptops. Usability of mobile is something where procurement is moving towards. SaaS and cloud-based, obviously it has given a lot of opportunities to the procurement function to cut down cost, upscale, downscale whenever you want, depending on your peaks. You can pay as per use, so that you are not incurring capex, heavy capex. You can use the latest technology. So that's where we are going towards. The payback is also very, very good. So you pay something for technology, but the payback probably is 1 month, 2 months down the line. So payback is also very, very healthy. And it boils down to the satisfaction of your stakeholders, whether it is internal stakeholder or your external stakeholder. They are able to get information, whatever they want, on just click of a button. And then they have all the answers available. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for sharing your views, your experiences. And it was really, really insightful. Bhavna, over to you.
Thank you, Nilesh. Wonderful moderation. And I was just going to ask you the closing thoughts, but then I heard you talk entirely about the panel discussion. And thank you for that, because it really helps all our audience understand what the panel was all about. So thank you once again to everyone for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, with this we come to the end of our wonderful summit. We hope you all had an enriching time listening to our speakers and also networking during the breaks with all our attendees. We would like to once again thank our eminent speakers for their valuable time and our partner CRIF India for their support. Log on to www.kamikaze.co.in and know more about us and our upcoming events. Always a further way to enhance our communication, we would appreciate you following us on our social media handles. Well, 2022 is going to be a great year of evolution, and I'm sure that we'll host a physical gathering with our procurement leaders soon. So till then, mask up, stay safe. This is me, Bhavna Bhatia, on behalf of Kamikaze B2B Media, signing off for today.